Hello, Geeks and Gamers. Matt Lemke here with Through Gamer Goggles and Jason Hardy from Catalyst Games. And we are going to talk about Shadowrun right now. And then, well we're just going to kind of talk about Shadowrun. So,
yay.
Yes, and, Jason just recently, it is not, it is out and it's on the shelves. You can find it.
Well, hopefully on the shelves, but at least making its way in that direction.
Yeah, he just, well, I guess you could say he just published his novel, but, I mean, it's probably in transit type of thing. So we're going to start there. I guess since you're like the line editor, when you want to write a book, who do you pitch it to?
The fiction editor. So that's a good thing that we happen to have a little bit of a division there, so it's not just me throwing myself work and approving it and saying, oh, that was a great novel, Jason, and patting myself on the back. So John Helfers is the fiction editor for Catalyst, and I send him proposals and give him outlines, and he tells me what was wrong and what could be better and what worked, just like you would with anyone else.
So how long, I mean, you and John probably talk 2 or 3 times a week, so I'm just curious, how much faster or slower is the process because of who you are?
It's probably about the same because of who I am. I mean, he said sometimes that he'll give some weight just because I know the universe, and I know what's going on, and that helps. But as far as getting approvals, it goes about the same as it would with any other writer. And, the writing process goes about the same. I don't get a whole lot of special treatment. He's got a lot of good writers writing the novel line. If you look at people who've come out recently, there's Gene Raby and Mel Odom and some newer writers like R.L. King and Kevin Charnecki. These are all good writers, so they deserve special treatment.
And your story is, well, let's start with the title, because I can picture the cover, but I cannot picture the title.
Under Shadows.
Yeah, Under Shadows. For some reason, I just pictured you writing something cyber, and I just cannot get beyond that. But so, your main character is doing what?
She's a rigger in London, in a section of London that's kind of been written off and left to rot on its own because no one wants to deal with it. And she herself is kind of in that same position where she was left because no one wants to deal with her. She developed some conditions that made her very erratic as a Shadowrunner. And at the beginning of the book, she's finally gotten those under control and is building herself back up to show what she can do. And so she's in an old abandoned arcology and kind of scavenging in there and working for some of the squatters who have taken residence there and finding a way to build up her reputation. And she starts uncovering some pretty deep and dark secrets, and that takes her down some pretty twisty paths.
Kind of sounds like Burn Notice.
Kind of, except she never quite made it to the super spy realm like Burn
Well,
Notice.
yeah.
But Burn Notice...
She hit bottom, and she's got to build her way back up.
Yeah, exactly. And Burn Notice, it doesn't have the science fiction and fantasy trappings, but if you look at the teamwork element and the kind of the attitude,
it's got the running element.
It does have a lot of Shadowrun feel to it.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, I had these titles written down. You just had 2 new releases for Shadowrun, and I cannot remember for the life of me what they are. I feel like an idiot, people. I am so sorry.
Well, we have Howling Shadows. I use the word shadows in title a lot this year. I'm going to break myself of that habit. But we have Howling Shadows, which is the critter source book. So all sorts of crazy animals and creatures from other planes and techno critters and weirdness fill up those pages along with great art showing what they look like. So that just got at the show just barely now as we were walking away from the booth. Those are the boxes they just wheeled out.
I didn't see it there, and I was like, I don't remember seeing that title.
Yeah, so that just made it there. And then Market Panic is the new corporate book that just hit stores a couple weeks ago. And so we have that.
What's your favorite critter?
Oh, wow. I've kind of liked the Croaky in Howling Shadows. Partly because of the artwork that went with them. Croaky is an extraplanar critter. Looks like an elegant woman with white gloves, but if she takes off the gloves and makes contact with you in any way with her fingers, then it gets really unpleasant. Kind of acidy, eating away at your flesh, unpleasant. And I think the artist conveyed the look of it well, and I think the writer explained them well, so they just have that right combination of alluring and dangerous that I think is fun to put into a critter book.
Interesting. What are there any new mechanics in Hell and Shadows?
Yeah, there are ways to customize critters, so you can build war forms if you want to, so you can add cyber to a critter and make them even meaner and tougher. And along with that comes training rules, because if you want to be able to deal with a critter and have them respond to you, you need to be able to train them. So there's rules on how to train them, as well as several new critter powers, because if we got new critters, there's going to be new powers.
And what's your favorite new power?
Oh, that's a tough one. Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look and remember which ones I like the most.
It's always hard. It's always hard.
You know what? I'll give you one. Munge. For the techno, or for the proto-sapiens that can go in the Matrix and
Whoa.
chew on data and kind of use the data as a source of food. And I like the word munge, and I think just the concept of them and giving them a motivation for why these critters in the Matrix might cause you problems, and that's because they're eating your data.
So they can go. Wait, they can go into the Matrix, but they're not. They're not
Well,
part
the
of.
proto-sapiens are. Proto-sapiens are like artificial intelligences, but more animalistic than your fully sapient.
Okay, so they fully live in the Matrix.
Yeah, but there are
Okay.
techno-critters who live in the Earth world, but like technomancers can access the Matrix. So they're there
Okay.
too. But the Munge is the proto-sapiens who live in the Matrix.
Okay. Wow, that's mind blowing. I'm trying to picture what they look like, and I just keep seeing
Oh,
like
you
this
should look at
electric pulse.
They look like a lot of different things. There's a demon one in there, and the art for that is really cool. It's kind of
Gosh.
bat-like wings and weirdness, and doesn't make total physical sense.
You wouldn't think they need that in the Matrix, but
Oh, we may not need it, but we sure like having it.
well, it is based off of our perceptions. So, what fits wears it, right?
One of the explanations of how they come out was kind of fun to put together, of how techno-critters come to being and why they would exist. And
Oh, so the history's there.
yeah, not in depth, but some theorizing about how you get techno-critters when no one programmed them. Or
Very
proto-sapiens.
cool.
If no one programmed this, how does this come to be? And so there's some discussion of how that comes out.
Very cool. Well, gee. Now, with the corporate book, what types of mechanics does that bring into the game?
Not a whole lot of new game mechanics. That's really for plot positioning.
Okay,
because-
so it's like a campaign book.
Yeah, so each of the Big Ten corporations in Shadowrun, we wanted to push towards some sort of crisis point, and we wanted them all feeling endangered all at the same time. So that's the plot, and when they're feeling endangered, they're going to lash out at each other and lash out at smaller corps, and so we wanted to really make them all feel like they were in danger and have something to lose and something to gain. So there's a lot of good plot hooks in there.
And that takes place current year.
Yeah. So 2078 in the Shadowrun setting.
So, everything's in turmoil. Everything's about ready to fall. And there's about to be a post-collapse.
Yep. So we'll see how
So-
bad it gets, but it's not. At least it's good for Shadowrunners because that means lots of business. Also means they're all going to be trying to
So
shoot at each other.
what is that setting the stage for?
Partly it's just setting the stage for itself because Shadowrun works best when there's a lot of conflict, when there's a lot of desperation. If people are feeling comfortable, then things dial back too much. People need to feel like they need to take risks in order to gain something, and that's when Shadowrun works the best. And so we wanted to make sure people felt like they needed to take risks. There are a few plot developments that will follow it. I don't want to point my fingers at any particular corporations, but we have at least one corporation that is going to lose their AAA status and fall out of the Big Ten, so we'll have another one coming in. So that plot development will happen, and then if you look carefully at some of the plot hints in there, you'll see seeds of a big plot development coming later this summer.
Okay. Will that be at Gen Con?
Yes, a book called Court of Shadows, and I don't want to give too many details, but gives some alternate setting for Shadowrun, takes it into a more high fantasy mystical world while still having direct connections to the sixth world, so you can move back and forth between the normal setting and this alternate setting. And how you do that is the subject of the plot development to come.
Fair. I'm intrigued by that now because that sounds really cool. What else is going to come out for the Shadowrun RPG this year?
Tomorrow at the show, we should have advanced copies of Seattle Sprawl, which is our Seattle box set. So all sorts of tools to use Seattle as a setting. So you'll have some map cards to construct buildings. You'll have NPC cards, so easy reference to NPCs, and then books on all the districts and books on the politics and happenings in Seattle, and campaign materials. So all sorts of good resources to use Seattle in your game. We'll also have, on the non-RPG side of Shadowrun, a push your luck dice game called Shadowrun Encounters.
Because it's push your luck, it really sounds like it's going to work too.
Yeah, and it also has a good interactivity, so sometimes you're pushing your own luck, which is a good sixth world mechanic, but then other players can interfere with you or take advantage of your failures, and so there's a lot of good screwing with each other in the game, so we're looking forward to having that.
Wow. And will that be Gen Con or
That
both?
should be here at Origins tomorrow.
Oh, that's right, that's what you just said.
And so yeah, we'll have the then full run of both of those at Gen Con. And then the Court of Shadows book I mentioned should be at Gen Con. And then there's another book we're really excited about. I don't know the exact timing. It will be sometime this year, called Shadowrun Anarchy. And this is our attempt to give players a different way to play Shadowrun. And this is what we've been working on for years, is our theory is that no matter how you play games, we want you to play Shadowrun. So we have the deck building game, we have encounters, we have the role-playing game, but we wanted to try a role-playing game that was more narrative-focused and a little less on the heavy mechanics. So it gives everyone around the table a chance to help build the story while playing their own characters that can advance. It makes conflict or combat simple instead of the more complicated Shadowrun. So it doesn't have the same depth as Shadowrun 5th edition, so it's not a new edition. We'll still be moving forward with Shadowrun 5 and doing new supplements, but this gives people a chance to do kind of a faster, lighter, easier to get into version of Shadowrun while still using all the plot material and all the setting material that we have.
Excellent. It sounds like that kind of grew out of Valiant.
Actually, it has some ties to Valiant. We are using some of the rules and ideas in Valiant and morphing them to fit into the Shadowrun, so it's kind of a midway point between Shadowrun and the Valiant RPG.
Very cool. Very cool. What else?
Well, we have. Did we mention the novel line? We have novels.
We talked about your novel.
We talked about my. Oh, that's right. There are other novels too. So the novel line will keep going on. Oh, and I should mention the tarot deck. Heaven forbid I forget to mention the tarot deck.
I didn't even know about that.
If you walk down the hall that way, in between the convention center and the Hyatt, you'll see a lot of Catalyst stuff up on windows, including a lot of tarot cards done with Shadowrun imagery. Echo Chernick, who's one of our favorite Shadowrun artists, she did the cover of Rigor 5, she did the cover of Run Faster, she did my favorite Harlequin image of all time. She just does awesome Shadowrun work. She illustrated an entire tarot deck. So 78 original illustrations. And so we're going to, of course, make that into a physical tarot deck that you can hold in your hands, and we hope to have that for Gen Con. And that's then going to spin out into a whole lot of possibilities. It'll tie into the Court of Shadows book that I mentioned. There will be strong ties there, and then we're going to have a campaign book that will let you use the tarot deck as a big deck of plot hooks, because there's a lot of interesting information on the cards. If you really look at the cards, there's some puzzles to solve. There are some connections between cards that help build themes between them, and you can use these to develop plots in a lot of interesting ways. So we'll have a book helping you see how this deck can be a great plot fuel and give players a lot of fun things to do.
That's very cool. And you covered enough that I really don't have any questions about it.
And then I think
that's really a great element to Shadowrun, and that I think that's going to fill some holes that I didn't realize were there until you said we're bringing out the tarot deck.
Yeah, it's just the looking through it value of looking through those cards and holding it will be good, but the ways we can figure out to use it in the game.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and the physicality of it will be.
well,
a
you can
lot of
even.
fun.
There's so many different applications. You can have characters that can use it within the Matrix, and
Mhm.
there's so much tarot decks. I mean,
Yeah, and we adjusted the major arcana to fit
yeah,
Shadowrun, so Matrix is one of them.
yeah. It's just, I just can't. As soon as you said tarot deck, I just started thinking about how it could be used within the realm of the Matrix, and I'm just like, wow, what mind blowing stuff you guys can accomplish with that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and I don't think we even have seen the full potential of how we can unfold it. But just looking at the art that Echo's produced and seeing the possibilities, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm blown away. This is actually a really big year now. I mean, it was, with all the releases that were consistently coming out, it was a big year anyway, because those were important releases. But the tarot deck on top of that is really pretty huge. Not only for the potential, I mean, just somebody buying the tarot deck and holding it in their hands and then being able to use it within their own world, or their own version of Shadowrun's world,
Yep.
is, well, mind-boggling. Because
It's going to be one of those things where I'll probably want to eavesdrop on a lot of different games just to see how people are using it once it comes out, because I think they'll come up with a lot of creativity that'll
there's a
be just great to watch.
ton of crazy stuff you can do with one card for a player.
Mhm.
Wow, it's just amazing. New character class. Well, there's not really classes, but new character, whatever you want to
You know,
call it.
archetypes, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to call it. I mean,
New
I'm not
concepts.
thinking like somebody who just does that, but the way somebody can manipulate it
Yeah.
more than creating something that works around it.
Yeah, you definitely have to look at the Court of Shadows book, because some of that, using the tarot to manipulate the world or using the world to manipulate the tarot, is in there.
Oh my gosh! Wow! Oh, I'm actually really. Oh, I can't wait for that though. That's really something else. And it seems like tarot in gaming industry lately has been a theme.
Yeah, and I think I didn't quite grasp how popular it was. The project was pushed forward a lot by our president, Lauren Coleman. And so I've been looking for ways to interweave it in the game, which is good, but just the fact that once we have the tarot images up, people keep coming to the booth and just saying, I want the tarot deck with those cards. Do you have it?
They
Buy it?"
don't care if it's functional.
Right.
They just want the tarot deck.
So
that's
that
amazing
appeal
too.
is considerable.
Huh. Wow. I'm really totally blown away. So that's just amazing. I'll have to go get pictures now.
Yeah, absolutely. Take a look at them.
Um,
And we got a T-shirt with one of the pictures too. So look at the T-shirt we have at the booth.
Okay.
I think it's the Two of Blades at the booth.
Two of plates. I will do that. It's just leveling. I mean, as a game master, you can have tarot cards and be like, here you go. And just smile.
Wouldn't that
Players
be fun?
like,
Just watch them react.
players like, oh, sink.
See that player paranoia kick in. What is this? What's happening? Who is that? Are they going to get us? Is
Here
that
you go.
me? I don't know.
You can have death.
Exactly.
Even
Yep.
though death, historically doesn't.
Isn't always what you think it is.
That's right. Yeah. But anyway, wow, that is just a super, super cool mechanic you guys are at. I can't get over it. It's just, anyway, trying to move on. What's anything else this year?
I think the only other book I haven't mentioned this year is a book called Cutting Aces. I've always been a fan of con man stories, so we're going to do a lot of Shadowrun con man stories. We're going to fill it with advice on how to pull off a long con or a short con, and the kind of gear or spells or added powers you need to be a good con man in Shadowrun.
I think that's something the gaming industry needs in general. I can't think of any other games where they have like a con man aid. I mean,
Yeah, and I love this story so much.
Yeah, and it's take a Neil Caffrey and put him in a Shadowrun. He's a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe not the way he is in White Collar, but they are perfect fits, and I think it's underdone.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is I think it's hard for players that haven't had that kind of world experience. It's hard for them to apply a con man's knowledge.
Yeah, and I think that'll be part of the trick is talking about how a con man approaches a situation and how you size someone up, and the always important job of never asking for something, because in the end the con is pulled off when they say, "I want to give you this money." Oh, okay. I'll take it.
Yep, exactly. And that's very tricky to roleplay.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and it's even harder to do if your GM doesn't know you're trying to do it.
Yeah, so hopefully the materials will help both GMs and players see how they can pull this off and give some new gaming possibilities besides
That's really cool.
smash and grab.
And that's last quarter then?
Yep.
Oh, sweet. I think that pretty much covers it for everything that's coming up that's really cool. I can't wait to see that now too. That's just really impressive. So, thank you guys, and we're going to sign off from Origins 2016, and with any luck, you should see this by morning.
All right, sounds good.
All right. See
Thanks,
you later,
everyone.
guys.